Last summer, my wife, Emily, had a fight with her mother, Margaret, and I tried to talk her into making up with her, but she wouldn't do it. I don't even remember what they disagreed about. But the point is, they hadn't spoken in 6 months. So I decided to make things right. After all, we are a family, and we should communicate. On that note, I went to visit my mother-in-law. Of course, she was surprised and started asking me different questions. What happened? Why I was there and so on. I didn't see her during the argument, but when I did, I was amazed. She had lost almost half her weight, but her figure was still graceful, especially in the front. I didn't look closely, but it seemed to me that her face had tightened up too. She looked about 10 years younger. I complimented her, "You look great," and she looked embarrassed, lowered her eyes, and said she wanted to make up with her daughter. Emily, however, wasn't even thinking about reconciling with her mother. Margaret shook her head and said, "You can do what you want, but I won't be the first to reconcile. I have a weakness for mature women. If there is an opportunity, I never pass up the chance. I tried it when I was young, and I still shudder at the memory of the experience. I know what they are capable of. Even if a woman's looks aren't perfect, when it comes to mature women, it's like a hurricane. As for Margaret, she has been very successful in losing weight. I don't like overly obese women. They don't make much of an impression." So I was sitting and chatting with my mother-in-law. She asked, "Would you mind opening a can of compote?" "You don't mind, do you?" I replied, "Of course not, bring it over." She poured me a glass, and the mood became cheerful. I asked her the reason for the quarrel. At first, she didn't want to say anything, but I talked her into it. It was silly to think that they had quarreled over some trifle. It turned out to be something else entirely. Margaret's boyfriend had his eye on Emily, and apparently Emily was tailing him. I was shocked. Honestly, I didn't expect this kind of behavior from Emily. She's a quiet girl, always stays at home, and I'd never noticed anything like this before. But did they? I asked Margaret, my face darkening. Surely no one would want to hear something like that about their wife. Margaret assured me that nothing had happened. Upon reflection, I believed her and felt some relief, although the unpleasant residue remained. I looked at Margaret and couldn't believe it. She started flirting with me so openly that anyone would have realized what she wanted. She sat gracefully in her chair, trying to strike a dramatic pose, and her dress even creaked from the strain. I thought, is this really happening? I have experience with women, so I know how quickly things can escalate. Margaret smiled at me, then pouted as if contemplating. Margaret was a good-looking woman. I could only imagine how many men had been in her life. I didn't feel awkward. I liked it. I don't like women's tantrums, and Margaret was acting quite naturally. She called me to the table and offered me something to eat. Lunch came at the right time, for I always have a voracious appetite after certain activities, and not just with someone, but with great pleasure. When I got home, Emily sniffed the air and said, "You smell like perfume. It's the same kind my mom wears." She looked at me carefully. "Not many people wear perfume like that," she added suspiciously. I indignantly replied, "There was a terrible crowd on the bus. That's why." Emily didn't ask any more questions, but I could see she was upset. I thought to myself that it would be best if she shut up and didn't say anything. A few days later, I visited my old friend. We hadn't seen each other in a while, but I thought, now you'll know what it's like to flirt with other men. It was my way of getting revenge. A week later, I got a call from Margaret. She started asking leading questions, and I was cheerful. As is tradition, she gave me compote and everything. She didn't hold back. Margaret was experienced, and I had never met a woman like her. We agreed to see each other more often. She took the initiative, but I took a wait-and-see attitude. Emily is young, and I don't forget that. Her only flaw is that she's a little cold. It takes her a while to warm up, like a stove that needs 7 pats to get hot. I prefer witty women who understand everything from the word go. They're less work and more fun. Then something funny happened. Emily suddenly decided to reconcile with her mother. It was as if she sensed I was interested in Margaret. She went to Mom's house with cake and lemonade to settle the conflict. Margaret, who used to be so adamant, suddenly stopped resenting her daughter. I don't know what they talked about, but they both looked pleased afterward. I even complimented Emily, saying, "Well done." But mentally I thought, what bad timing. Margaret and I continued our meetings. She even started telling me about Emily's secrets, informing me whether she was going on a date or not. Even Margaret's boyfriend didn't bother us. After a while they started dating again and Margaret told me about it. "I can't say no to you," she admitted. I didn't argue with her. She told me the truth, and I knew what I was doing. That's why women are drawn to me. Anyone who's been with me once always comes back for more. That's how we live here.